Hello, my name is Jasmine McBride. I am a student in the Instructional Technology graduate program at Kennesaw State University. My capstone consists of two parts. The first part is using CTLS, which is the Cobb Teaching and Learning System. With this system, I focused on creating, administering, and analyzing math assessments. The second part of my capstone is finding strategies and tools to help with increasing math scores. All of these strategies and tools were made for the kindergarten classroom. The purpose of this capstone was to help my kindergarten colleagues learn to create assessments using CTLS Assess, navigate through the CTLS website, and analyze personal class data and grade level data from CTLS. The Cobb County School System expects its teachers to consistently use CTLS Assess to assess and analyze student data, and to log on to CTLS Teach to help with the lessons and preparing to assess students. When I was talking to my principal about my capstone, she expressed to me that she wanted me to be familiar with the CTLS program and help my colleagues become more familiar with the CTLS program as well. My principal wanted me to focus on math because as a school, Russell Elementary School, that is our subject of focus this year based on our scores from last year. The purpose of this capstone is to help my kindergarten colleagues learn to create assessments on CTLS Assess, navigate through the CTLS website, and analyze personal class data and grade level data on CTLS. The Cobb County School System expects its teachers to be using CTLS consistently to create assessments and to assess students and to analyze student data. When I was talking to my principal about my capstone, she expressed to me that she wanted me to become more familiar with CTLS and to help my team members become more familiar with CTLS because kindergarten would eventually be using CTLS consistently through the year. When my principal and I were talking about my capstone and we were discussing using CTLS, she also expressed to me that she wanted me to focus on math. This is because math is the subject area that school-wide we are focusing on based on our scores from last year. The other purpose of my capstone was to help my team find strategies and tools to help students improve their math scores. One of my school's weaker areas across the board was our math scores in previous years. When looking at how the school performs on the math section of the Georgia Milestone and the math inventory, which is also known as the MI, we as a school had decided to focus on math this year to improve school-wide. When going over capstone ideas with my principal, as I discussed previously, her and I both felt finding strategies and tools to improve in this subject would be a great investment in my time, and it would be a great way to pull my team in to help me. My project had two different plans that I had to carry out, being that there were two different parts to my capstone project. The first part of my project had a plan with CTLS, and I had to complete the following steps to complete it. I met with our technology coach at the time. Her name was Miss Ramsey. We sat and went through navigating through CTLS. She worked with me on creating assessments. We practiced creating assessments. We practiced pushing the assessments out to the other teachers. And then I had my teachers actually do some practice tests with their students. And then me and my technology coach sat down again and we practiced analyzing the data, pulling up the data, the different parts of analyzing the data on the CTLS website so that I could later go back and teach my team and lead my team through doing those same steps. After practicing and working with my technology coach, I then started working with my team. I led my team in creating our first CTLS assessment that actually counted for the year. And after our students took it the first time, I led my team in analyzing the data and navigating through the website to figure out what we needed to do throughout the 9 weeks to improve those scores. After teaching the material at the end of the 9 weeks, I went in and created a post-assessment for the team to use. We administered it to students, came back together, and then once again I led the kindergarten team in analyzing the data from the assessment. If you look up on the screen, I have the CTLS Assess board up. This is the home page. When a Cobb County teacher clicks on CTLS Assess, it will come up with your information. So as you can see over here, I have my scores from my class, and I have where I can build an assessment. Right here, I have my resources, item builder. So item builder is where you can pull questions to put on an assessment that you create. And if I want to go into the data and analyze data, I have different parts, as you see right here, that I can click on, and I can do that with any test. So if I click here, It gives me options to view the curriculum results data analysis or to view the performance analysis for my students. And then I can come and I can click on any test I want and I get those options. So the main thing that I want you guys to be able to see is how I was able to evaluate my capstone. So if you look at that original assessment, we had 40% average in my class. And if you look right here in this green, you can see that my class average was an 80. So we went from 40 to 80%. So as I discussed earlier, it was extraordinary growth, which means the tools and the strategies that I was using were very effective in my classroom. So I'm just gonna take a few minutes to show you how it looks when you look at the data for your grade. So we're gonna look at where my class scored the 80%, and we're going to look at the data analysis. So I'm gonna click that 80, and as you can see, it pops up. And then I'm gonna do view current results, data analysis. All right, so as you can see here, now I have many different options. So I want to select my class. So as you can see, I had 23 students. It says 2 classes because it splits my class based on if they are EIP or not EIP. So I can click here on student level results and I can see how my class did individually and I can see student scores. I can also look at the standards. So as you can see, we were assessing OA1, and it tells you what that standard is. There were 8 questions just based on OA1, and my class, as we already discussed, had 80% average. Another thing that you can look at when you're analyzing your data using CTLS-Assess is you can look at it by question and how the students answered, how many students answered that way, so that you can figure out what were some common misconceptions and what questions students were thinking a lot alike on. So I selected my class again. I'm going to click Answers. And now as you can see the question, how many students answered it, and the percentage of students that answered it correctly. So I'm going to show you guys just one more feature you can look at when you're analyzing your data on CTLS-Assess. So once again, I'm going to select my class, and maybe I want to look at the demographics. So I'll come right over here, demographics, and then you can see all the different demographic groups that show for my students. So I can look at female versus male. I can look at white, black, Hispanic, Asian. I can look at students who are ELL, not ELL. I can look at students with disabilities. And I can use all of that to also analyze the data, how I was teaching it, how I was breaking kids into group, the way I explained the questions, why might the student have a misconception, or why might the student not understand based on their demographic groups. The second part of my capstone plan was researching the tools and the strategies. I researched tools and strategies that I had heard of, tools that my teammates had told me. I talked a lot to my team lead. I also went and talked to our math coach at the school. And when I talked to her, she actually gave me a book. And I went through that book and found a variety of strategies to use in the primary classroom. The Strategies for Implementing Guided Math book gave a variety of strategies to use in the primary classroom to help increase math scores and to make the flow of math in the classroom more efficient. After teaching the material at the end of the 9 weeks, I went in and created a post-assessment for the team to use. We administered it to students, came back together, and then once again I led the kindergarten team in analyzing the data from the assessment. At the end of the 9 weeks, I created a post-assessment for the kindergarten team to use. We then came back together and I led the team in analyzing the data and coming up with a plan for the following 9 weeks, which we are now working on. Up on my Promethean board right now, I have the PowerPoint that I sent out to my team with strategies and tools to use in the classroom when doing math. As you can see, there's a slide on warm-ups. Warm-ups should be conducted with your class every day, which is what I discussed with my team when I originally presented my capstone to them. There's also ways that you can incorporate math warm-ups into your daily routines, like your calendar time, and when you go over weather for the day, when you go over class procedures. So I gave them just different fun ways that they can incorporate in their day. There is strategies for whole class instruction, which I gave them just a quick slide of some of the things that we spoke about. And of course, our favorite, small group instruction, where you can really work on students' needs and you can group them by their needs and capabilities. And I gave just a few things that you can do within your small groups and some things to really focus on when you're looking at small groups for math. And math workshops, splitting them into these groups and these centers, are very important and they should be meaningful to the students. So I gave just a few things that you can do and some things to keep in mind. And then, even though we're in kindergarten, we always want to conference with our students. So I just gave a few suggestions and things to remember when conferencing with students about math. And then math assessments. You need to assess your students regularly, but it doesn't always need to seem like an assessment. So I gave some strategies and some different ways to assess students, and we talked about different ways we can assess students without actually assessing students. And then really quick, I'm just gonna show you a few of the tools. I'm not gonna go through all of them. So one of the main ones that we've really started focusing on in kindergarten is Prodigy. Prodigy is for 1st through 8th grade, but for your students who are more advanced and you need to enrich them, then Prodigy is a great tool for them, and it's fun. It's set up like a little video game, so it's very enjoyable for the student, but it's also a tool that's helping them get those strategies and material that they need to push themselves ahead. MobyMax can be used from kindergarten through 8th grade as well. It is a great tool and it differentiates for you. So it is a great tool to use in the classroom. You can use it to monitor student growth, but it also is a great practice tool. To evaluate my capstone, I used the grade levels post-assessment scores, and some of my teammates also created their own pre-assessment on CTLS for the 4th 9 weeks. When my teammates created the pre-assessments for the 4th 9 weeks, I was only there for guidance and assistance, which they only used me a few times. This showed me that walking them through the process and acting as a technology lead through the 2nd and 3rd 9 weeks was successful. I was able to see that the math tools and strategies were successful because as a team, we all picked tools and strategies to use within our own classrooms. When we came together at the end of the 9 weeks after the post-assessments, and when we were analyzing our data, we saw that as a team, all of our students grew as a whole. I also was able to see that my personal scores had extraordinary growth, which means using the tools and strategies in my classroom were successful as well. Looking back on my capstone, I feel that it helped me grow as a leader amongst my grade level team, and it made me a stronger teacher. Although I had to change up my capstone after I had a whole plan for what I wanted to do, I do not regret it one bit. When my principal and I originally discussed my capstone, we discussed me researching tools and strategies to help improve math for all grade levels. When my grade level changed from 2nd grade to kindergarten this year, my principal felt it would be a good idea for me to focus on my grade with my capstone, especially since I was getting used to my 3rd new grade and my 3rd year of teaching. As we continued talking about changing my project to just kindergarten, we got to the topic of CTLS and how I could lead my team in learning the technology that would begin to be required of us in January of this year. Completing the research and meeting with the appropriate people to complete my capstone was not the part that was most difficult or most stressful for me. The most stressful part of completing this capstone was actually getting it done. The majority of my capstone could not be completed until the 3rd 9 weeks of school, which put me behind on my dates for completing the capstone for the program. This made me feel rushed and I began to stress out. The timeline that I had to use to complete my capstone put me at finishing towards the end of March, which pushed everything back past when I originally planned on being done with my capstone. I feel that this capstone has taught me a lot about being an effective math teacher. It has taught me the power of using web tools and multiple strategies to help my students be more successful in the classroom. It also helped me become more confident in creating assessments on CTLS, which, as I stated earlier, is the Cobb Teaching and Learning System. Now that I've completed this capstone, I feel like I am a more effective math teacher. I feel like I have improved my leadership skills and technology technology, and I also feel like I have improved my leadership skills amongst my peers.